tourist has reinvigorated the city, but even like the locals, you know, you go to the restaurants and you go to businesses again. They seem way more, I guess, alive.
There's been a real big struggle because they're short on
the 12 in length of tubing for either a lure attachment for syringe use or a multi-sample lure adapter. For use with evacuated tubes. They are used to collect blood from small and difficult veins such as hand veins and veins of elderly and pediatric patients. Blood film smear. A drop of blood spread thinly on a microscope slide. Blood pressure. A measure of the force, pressure exerted by the blood on the walls of blood vessels. Bloodborne pathogen, BVP, term applied to infectious microorganisms in blood or other body fluids. Bloodborne pathogens, BVP, stands for moisture regulations designed to protect employees against occupational exposure to pathogens found in blood or other body fluids and substances. B-type nucleolytic peptides, body pathogens, large, hollow spaces in the body that house the various organs. Body plane, a flat surface resulting from a real or imaginary cut through a body in a normal anatomic position. Body temperature, 36.4 degrees to 37.6 degrees Celsius, 37 degrees Celsius average, or 96.8 degrees to 99.7 degrees Fahrenheit, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit average. Brachial artery, artery located in the medial anterior aspect of the antetubular fossa near the insertion of the biceps muscle, the second choice for arterial puncture. Bradycardia, slow heart rate, less than 60 beats per minute. Breach, term in computer security that means a break in a firewall, the system that monitors and controls network traffic to prevent unauthorized access to or from the network. Breach of confidentiality, failure to keep privileged medical information private. B-type natriuretic peptide, BNP, cardiac hormone produced by the heart in response to ventricular volume expansion and pressure overload. Buccal swab, swab of material collected from the inside of the cheek. Bussy coat, the layer of WBCs and platelets that forms between the RBCs and plasma when anticoagulated blood settles or is centrifuged. Bursa, bursa, small synovial fluid is most sat in the vicinity of a joint restriction between joint parts and tendons and bones. Butterfly needle, another term for a winged infusion set. CNS, culture and sensitivity. C, difficile, Clostridium difficile, the most commonly reported high, healthcare-associated infection, pathogenic microorganisms. Calcaneus, medical term for ill bones. CAP, College of American Pathologists. CAPA, corrective action, preventative action. An action plan established to QA data identify a problem or opportunity for improvement. Capillaries, microscopic one-cell thick vessels that connect the arterioles and venules, forming a bridge between the arterial and venous circulations. Capillary action, the ability of a liquid to be automatically drawn into a narrow space or tube. Capillary specimen, blood specimen that is a mixture of arterial, venous, and capillary blood obtained by puncturing the skin. Carbaminohemoglobin, carbon dioxide combined with hemoglobin. Cardiac cycle, one complete contraction and subsequent relaxation. For the heart, cardiac output, volume of blood pumped by the heart in 1 minute, averaging 5 L per minute. Cardiac troponin I, TNI, a protein specific to heart muscle. Cardiac troponin T, TNT, heart muscle specific protein, elevated longer than TNI. Cardiovert, cross-contamination of central hepatic with 1 T. Type of heart and vascular connective the person who coordinates medical services on behalf of a patient.
Where were you guys during the pandemic?
The process by which complex substances are broken down into simple ones to release and digestible food. Urine specimen collected from the bladder by catheterization. Catheterized, a term describing a urine specimen collected from a sterile catheter inserted through the urethra into the bladder. Causative agent, the pathogen responsible for causing an infection, also called the infectious agent. CBG, capillary blood gas determination performed on an arterial arch capillary specimen. Celsius, a temperature scale on which the melting point is 0 degree and the boiling point is 100 degrees. Normal body temperature expressed in Celsius is 37 degrees, also known as the centigrade scale. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, the division of the U.S. Public Health Service charged with the investigation and control of disease and epidemic potential. Centigrade, C Celsius, Central Nervous System, CNS, the brain and spinal cord. Central processing, screening and prioritizing area where specimens are received and prepared for testing. Also called specimen processing. Central vascular access device, CVAD, indwelling line, tubing inserted into a main vein or artery, used primarily for administering fluids and medications, monitoring pressures. And drawing blood. Central venous catheter, CVC, a line inserted into a large vein, such as the subclavian, and advanced into the superior vena cava, proximal to the right atrium. The exit end is surgically tunneled under the skin to a site several inches away from the chest, also called central venous line. Centrifugation, the process of spinning specimen tubes in a centrifuge, for example to separate the liquid portion of blood specimen from the cellular portion. Centrifuge, a machine that spins the blood tube at a high number of revolutions per minute. Cephalic vein, the second choice antitubular vein for venipuncture in an H-shaped vein pattern, located in the lateral aspect of the antetubular portion.
you guys again. So I was
This
like,
was
started
final
right
CSS
past those people with confidence, knowing fully well none of them will turn around.
Ramen is a very popular ramen
Evidence that an
chain.
individual
Yeah,
has
it's
mastered
very
fundamental
popular
competence
tourists.
was in a particular technical area.
Yes.
Here, continuing education
I
units.
do that. I
CF,
like it.
cystic fibrosis.
Is it the
Chain of
best ramen
custody.
ever? No.
Special strict
What I
protocol
line
for
up
forensic
for
specimens
so
that requires detailed documentation
I
tracking
think
the
it's good.
specimen from the time it is collected until the results are
I like it
reported.
spicy. That's
Chain of
about it.
infection. A number of components or events that, when present in a series, lead to an
It ain't a
infection.
10. It ain't a 10. Yeah,
Chemistry.
it's okay.
Laboratory
To be fair,
department concerned with the
it
detection
is
and
hard to
measurement of
find
chemical
good
substances in body
because
fluids.
as well, people
Fluoride,
overuse
Cl-,
for some reason.
electrolyte
Super
responsible for
fucking
maintaining
brutal.
cellular integrity by
Yeah,
influencing
yeah, yeah,
osmotic
yeah.
It's
pressure and
hard
acid
to
base
find a
in water
right
balance.
place above 4.2.
Chordate tendinity.
I don't
Thin
think
threads
I've
of
seen
tissue
one
that
for
attach
very
the atrioventricular
Well,
valves
it's
to
like
the walls of the
three.
ventricles
Yeah,
to
but
help
it's
keep
also
them
because
completely
like
vacuum
in
the
like subculture.
CIBTs, culture-independent diagnostic tests, including biologic rhythms and variations having a 24-hour cycle. Circulatory system, system that consists of the cardiovascular system, heart, blood vessels, and the lymphatic system.
Yeah, and it's of course with
Lymph vessels, and
You're not
nodes,
gonna find
and is
out
the
one
means by
place
which
that
oxygen and nutrients are carried to the cells and carbon dioxide and other wastes are carried away from them.
like the miso.
Civil actions, legal actions in which the alleged injured party sues for monetary damages. Cl-, chloride, clay sealer, a type of sealer used for closing the end of a microhematica
I have
tube. Clean patch, method of obtaining urine samples so that it is free of contamination from the external genital area. Sear tube, a tube that is collected to remove additive or tissue fluid contamination, or air from blood collection, set tubing, and discarded before the primary tube is collected. It is also known as a discharge. CLIA 88, Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments of 1988. CLIAC, Clinical Laboratory Improvement Advisory Committee, CLIAC. Clinical and Laboratory Standards Institute, CLSI, a global, non-profit, standards development organization comprising representatives from the private, industry, and government. Law Estimator, a substance that enhances the evaluation process. Cloud, term for off-site computer data storage maintained by a third party. CLSI, Clinical and Laboratory Standards Institute. CMS, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Coagulation, the blood clotting process. Coagulation cascade, sequential activation of the coagulation factor. Code, a way to transmit a message, normally understood by healthcare personnel only, over the facility's public address system. Using numbers or words to convey information needed for personnel to respond to certain situations. Cognitive impairment, trouble concentrating, learning, remembering things, and making decisions that can be caused, for example, by depression, medication side effects, and dementia, e.g. Alzheimer's dementia. Collateral circulation, an area supplied with blood from more than one artery so that circulation can be maintained when vessels obstructed. Combining forms.
Are you going to work?
Combining
Oh.
balance, a balance, that is added between two words or a word. Coagulation pathway involving the conversion of thrombin to thrombin, which splits fibrinogen into a fiber and disrupts blood flow and creates the fibrin clot.
It was so big for like
Able to
what
spread
I
from
thought
person to
was
person as a
even for
disease.
Japanese standards. It's like
Communication barriers,
really
biases or personalized filters that are major obstructions to verbal communication.
there's a lot of other
Compatibility, ability to be mixed together with favorable results, as in blood transfusion. Competency,
Someone has died of like
educational standards for
badly
body
like
confidentiality, the ethical cornerstone of professional behavior.
It's actually really nice.
The practice of regarding information concerning legal affairs and not being disclosed to anyone without
Would
the
you ever
person's
choose it
authorization.
over normal Japanese
Contact
alcohol?
precautions. Precautions
No.
used in addition to standard precautions when a patient is known or suspected
That's
of
like a-
being
that's like a once a
colonized with
year thing.
epidemiologically
If
important
This is
microorganisms
all
that can
how
be
I
transmitted by
don't know
direct
issue that
contact with
exists
the
in
patient or
the
indirect contact with surfaces of patient care items.
intestines and so forth.
Contact transmission. Transfer of an infectious agent to a susceptible host through direct or indirect
This
contact.
restaurant was.
Direct and indirect contact transmission. Continuous quality improvement, CQI, are ongoing efforts to improve the quality of service.
That's maybe how most of it is
A
a lot of the
holistic,
items, but
coordinated
like
system for
only
healthcare
once a
services.
month, that's weird.
Mainly.
Coronary arteries, arteries that branch off of the aorta just beyond the aortic perilunar valve that deliver blood to the heart
I
muscle.
was in Okayama.
CAL, certificate of blueprint, CPD, citrate phosphate dextrose, an additive used in collecting units of blood for transfusion. Citrate prevents clotting by chelating calcium, phosphate stabilizes pH, and dextrose provides cells with energy and helps keep them alive. Captain, current procedural terminology, CPU, central processing unit, CQI, continuous quality improvement, cranial cavity, body space that houses the brain, creatinine clearance, a kidney function test that requires a 24-hour urine test to reveal a specimen usually collected at the midpoint of urine collection. Criminal action, legal recourse for offenses committed against the law that can lead to imprisonment of the offender. Critical value, significantly abnormal test results that could indicate a life-threatening situation that requires immediate attention by the physician. Also called panic value. CRP, C-reactive protein, suitability of mixing doses of SESS, cerebrospinal fluid, CUBT, C-urea breath test, C-urea breath test, are tested performed on exhaled breath specimens to detect the presence of Helicobacter pylori, H. pylori, a type of bacteria that causes chronic gastritis, which can lead to peptic ulcer disease. The test is based on the fact that H. pylori produces urease, an enzyme that breaks down urea, releasing carbon dioxide in the process. Culture and sensitivity, CNS, microbiology test that includes placing a specimen in a special nutrient media which encourages the growth of microorganisms, identifying any that will, and then performing sensitivity, antibiotic susceptibility testing to identify antibiotics that will be effective against them. Flashing indicator on the computer screen. CVAD, central vascular access device. CVC, central venous catheter. Cyanotic, marked by cyanosis or a bluish color from lack of oxygen. Cystic fibrosis, disorder of the exocrine glands that affects many body systems but primarily the lungs, upper respiratory tract, liver, and pancreas, resulting in abnormally high levels, 2 to 5 times normal, of chloride in the blood. Cytogenetics, laboratory department where samples are examined microscopically for chromosomal deficiencies that relate to genetic disease. Cytology, laboratory department where cells in body tissues and fluids are identified, counted, and studied to diagnose malignant or pre-malignant conditions. Data, information collected for analysis or computation. Defendant, in a lawsuit, a person or persons against whom a complaint is filed. Delta check, comparison of current results of the lab test with previous results for the same test on the same patient. Dendrites, structures that carry messages to the nerve cell body. Deposition, a process in which one party questions another under oath while the court reporter records every word. Dermis, corium or true skin, a layer composed of elastic or fibrous connective tissue. Diabetic ketoacidosis, a dangerous decrease in blood created due to excess ketones that requires medical intervention. Dialysis, a procedure in which patients whose kidneys do not function adequately have their blood artificially filtered to remove waste products. Diaphodesis, process by which WBC slid through the walls of the capillaries into the tissues. Diaphragm, the dome-shaped muscle that separates the abdominal cavity from the thoracic cavity. Diastole, the relaxing phase of the cardiac cycle. Diastolic pressure, pressure in the arteries during relaxation of the ventricles. Differential, DIF, a test in which the number, type, and characteristics of blood cells are determined by examining a clean blood smear under a microscope. Direct contact transmission, transfer of an infectious agent to a susceptible host through close or intimate contact, such as touching or kissing. Directional terms, medical terms that describe the relationship of an area or part of the body with respect to the rest of the body or body part. Discard tube, also called a clear tube, a tube used to collect and discard approximately 5 milliliters of blood to an additive, IV, or tissue fluid contamination of a specimen. Discovery, formal process in litigation that involves taking depositions and interrogating the parties involved. Disinfectant, substances or solutions used to remove or kill microorganisms from surfaces and instruments. Discal, farthest from the center of the body, origin, or point of attack. Discal segment, end or portions in the end or discal segment of a finger. Diurnal, happening daily. DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. DNAR, do not attempt resuscitation. DNR, do not resuscitate. DOG, date of birth. Do not use list, a list of confusing or potentially dangerous. Abbreviations, symbols, and acronyms that must be included on this list by every organization accredited by the Joint Commission. Dorsal, posterior or pertaining to the back. Dorsal cavities, including spaces located in the back of the body. DOT, Department of Transportation. DRGs, diagnosis-related groups. Droplet precautions. Precautions used in addition to standard precautions for patients known or suspected of being infected with microorganisms transmitted by droplets, particles larger than 5 micrometers. Generated when a patient coughs, coughs, or sneezes and during certain procedures such as suctioning. Droplet transmission, transfer of an infectious agent to the mucous membranes of the mouth, nose. Conjunctiva of the eyes via infectious droplets, particles 5 micrometers in diameter or larger, generated by talking, coughing, sneezing, or during procedures such as suctioning. Drug screening, the practice of testing employees or athletes' urine or blood to screen for illicit or illegal drugs. Due care, the level of care that a person of ordinary intelligence or good sense would exercise under a given circumstances. ECG, electrocardiogram, the same as EKG. Edema, swelling due to abnormal accumulation of fluid in the tissues. Edematous, swollen with fluid. EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, an anticoagulant that prevents coagulation by binding or chelating calcium. It is used for hematology studies because it preserves cell morphology and inhibits platelet cloaking. 8-hour urine, the urine specimen usually collected upon awakening in the morning after approximately 8 hours of sleep. Other names for their first morning, first void, overnight, or early morning urine. EKG, older term for electrocardiogram, ECG. Electrocardiogram, ECG or EKG, an actual record of the electrical currents corresponding to each event in heart muscle contraction. Electrolytes, substances such as potassium or sodium that conduct electricity when abbreviation for ethanol or blood alcohol. ETS, evacuated tube system. Evacuated tube system, ETS, a closed system in which the patient's blood flows directly into a collection tube through a needle. Inserted into a vein, evacuated tubes, type of tubes used for blood collection that have a pre-measured vacuum and are color-coded to denote the additive inside. Examination, during testing, also called analytical, during analysis. Execrete glands, glands that secrete substances through dust. Expectorate, spit, the act of forcibly ejecting saliva or other substances from the mouth. Exsanguinate, to remove all blood. Exsanguination, blood loss to a point where life cannot be sustained. External, on or near the surface of the body. Superficial. External respiration, exchange of respiratory gases in the lungs. Extrasystoles, extra heartbeats before the normal beat. Extravascular, outside the blood vessel. Extrinsic, originating outside. Extrinsic pathway, coagulation pathway initiated by the release of thromboplastin from injured tissue. FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. Fallopian tubes, nuts that carry over, fastidious antimicrobial neutralization. Fastidious antimicrobial neutralization. Fan, blood culture bottle that contains activated charcoal that neutralizes antibiotics in a blood specimen. Fasting, no food or drink except water for approximately 12 hours. Feather, thinnest area of a properly made blood smear where a differential is performed. Fecal occult blood test, a test that detects hidden, occult blood in stool. Femoral artery, large artery located superficially in the groin, lateral to the pubic bone. It is the largest artery used for arterial puncture. Fibrillation, rapid, incoordinated contractions. Fibrin, a filamentous protein formed by the action of thrombin on fibrinogen. Fibrin degradation products, fibrin split products, fragments remaining from the breakdown of fibrin. Fibrinogen, also called factor I, a protein found in plasma essential to the clotting of blood. Fibrinolysis, the process that results in the removal or dissolution of a blood clot once healing has occurred. Finger stick, another term for finger puncture. FiO2, fraction of inspired oxygen as an oxygen therapy. Fire tetrahedron, the latest way of looking at the chemistry of fire, in which the chemical reaction that produces fire is added as a fourth component to the traditional fire triangle components of fuel, heat, and oxygen. First morning urine, the urine specimen collected immediately upon awakening after 8 hours of sleep. Other names for an A4, first morning, overnight, or early morning specimen. Discharge, a dialysis shunt created by direct permanent fusion of the artery and vein. Fecal immunochemical test, also called immunochemical fecal occult blood test, IFOBT. Phalanges, extensions on the sides of an evacuated tube holder that aid in tube placement and removal. Flea, small metal bar that is inserted into the tube after collection of a capillary blood gas specimen to aid in mixing the anticoagulant by means of a magnet. FOBT, fecal occult blood test. Fomites, inanimate objects such as copper-toxic computer that can harbor material containing infectious agents. Forensic, involving the use of scientific methods in crime investigation. Forensic specimen, specimen collected for legal reasons. Organelles, the 3 types of cells that make up the cellular portion of the blood. They are red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, though a platelet is part of a cell and not a true cell. Fraud, the deceitful practice or false portrayal of facts by either words or conduct. Frontal plane, divides the body vertically into front and back portions, also called coronal planes. FUO, fever of unknown origin. Galactosemia, inherited disorder caused by lack of the enzyme. Needed to convert the milk sugar galactose into glucose, which is needed by the body to produce energy. Gallbladder, an accessory organ to the digestive system. Gametes, sex cells. Gastric analysis, a test that examines stomach contents for abnormal substances and measures gastric acid concentration to evaluate stomach acid production. Gastrointestinal, GI, tract. The passageway that extends from the mouth to the anus through the pharynx, esophagus, stomach, and small and large intestines. Gatekeeper, primary physician who serves as the patient's advocate and advises the patient on his or her healthcare needs. Gauge, a number that relates to the diameter of the lumen of a needle. Genes, segments of DNA that can reproduce themselves and are the basic units of heredity. Genome, a complete set of DNA containing all the genes and the 23 pairs of it that contain all the information needed to build and maintain a human being. Geriatrics, relating to old age. Germ cells, gametes or sex cells. Germicide, an agent that kills pathogenic microorganisms. GI tract, gastrointestinal tract. Glomerulus, a tuft of capillaries that filter water and dissolved substances, including wastes, from the blood. GLPs, good laboratory practices. Glucose tolerance test, GTT, a test used to diagnose carbohydrate metabolism problems. Glycohemoglobin, glucose that is chemically bound to hemoglobin A, the primary form of hemoglobin in adults. Used as an indication of glucose control over time, also called hemoglobin A1C, HbA1c. A glycated hemoglobin, glycolysis, the breakdown or metabolism of glucose, blood sugars by blood cells. Glycosuria, glucose in the urine. Gonads, glands that manufacture and store gametes and produce. Hormones that regulate the reproductive process. Graft, a piece of a vein or tubing surgically made to form a loop from the artery to the vein that is just under the skin. Grams, G, the basic unit of weight in the metric system, approximately equal to a cubic centimeter or a milliliter of water. Granulocytes, WBCs with easily visible granules. Great saphenous vein, the longest vein in the body, located in the leg. GTT, glucose tolerance test. Guaiac, a type of resin from guaiacum trees that is impregnated in the filter paper used for traditional occult blood tests. Guaiac test, a test for hidden blood in feces, also called occult blood test. HIE, healthcare-associated infection. Hardware, computer equipment used to process data. Hazard communication, HAZCOM, standard, the OSHA standard that requires employers to maintain documentation on all hazardous chemicals. HAZCOM, abbreviation for the OSHA Hazard Communication Standard. HB, hemoglobin, HbA1c, hemoglobin A1c, also called glycohemoglobin, which is glucose-bound to hemoglobin. HBV, hepatitis B virus, the virus that caused hepatitis B HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. HCO3-, bicarbonate ions. HCS, Hazard Communication Standard, OSHA. HCT, hematocrit, also called packed cell volume, PCV. HCV, hepatitis C virus, the virus that caused hepatitis C. HDL, high-density lipoprotein, commonly called good or healthy cholesterol because it is believed to carry LDL, bad cholesterol. Away from the arteries. HDN, hemolytic disease of the newborn. Healthcare-associated infection, HI, applies to infections associated with healthcare delivery in any healthcare setting, including home care. Healthcare Infection Control Practices Advisory Committee, a federal organization established in 1991 that advises the CDC on updating guidelines regarding the prevention of nosocomial infection. Heart rate, number of heartbeats per minute, which is normally around 72 beats per minute. Heel stick, another term for heel puncture. Helicobacter pylori, H. Pylori, bacterial species secreting substances that damage the lining of the stomach and cause chronic gastritis, which can lead to peptic ulcer disease. Hematocrit, HCT, percentage by volume of red blood cells in whole blood. Hematology, term for the study of the blood and blood-forming tissues. Also, the name for the laboratory department that performs tests that discover, identify and monitor diseases and other problems associated with the blood and blood-forming tissues. Hematoma, a swelling or mass of blood, often clotted, such as that caused by blood leaking from a blood vessel during or following venipuncture. Hematopoiesis, see hemopoiesis. Hemochromatosis, a disease characterized by excess iron deposits in the tissues. Also called iron overload. Hemoconcentration, a decrease in the fluid content of the blood, with a subsequent increase in non-filterable large molecule or protein-based blood components such as red blood cells. Hemoglobin, HGB or HB, an iron-containing pigment in RBCs that enables them to transport oxygen and carbon dioxide and also gives them their red color. Hemolysis, damage or destruction of RBCs and release of hemoglobin into the fluid portion of a specimen, causing the serum color to range from pink, slight hemolysis, to red, rose hemolysis. Hemolytic disease of the newborn, HDN, destruction of RBCs of an Rh-positive fetus by Rh antibodies produced by an Rh-negative mother, which cross the placenta into the fetal circulation. Hemolyze, the condition of serum or plasma that contains hemoglobin from broken RBCs. Hemopoiesis, production and development of blood cells and other formed elements, normally in the bone marrow. Hemostasis, process by which the body stops the leakage of blood from the vascular system after injury, also known as the coagulation process. Hemostatic plug, blood clot formed from blood cells and platelets trapped in a network of fibrin strands. Heparin, anticoagulant that prevents clotting by inhibiting thrombin formation. Heparin lock, a catheter or cannula with a stopcock or cap and a diaphragm to provide access for administering medication or drawing blood. Heparin management test, HMT, a test used in monitoring high-dose heparin, needed in catheterization laboratories and during surgery. HGB, hemoglobin. HICPAC, Healthcare Infection Control Practices Advisory Committee. HIPAA, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. HIS, Hospital Information System. Histologic, histological, pertaining to the microscopic structure of tissue. Histology, term for the study of the microscopic structure of tissues. Also, the laboratory department that evaluates tissue samples from surgeries and autopsies microscopically to determine if they are normal or pathological, disease. HIV, Human Immunodeficiency Virus. HMOs, Health Maintenance Organizations. HMT, Heparin Management Test. Homeostasis, the steady state, state of equilibrium or balance of the internal environment of the body, which is maintained through feedback and regulation in response to internal and external changes. Hormones, powerful chemical substances that affect many body processes. Hospice, a type of care for patients who are terminally ill. HPC, handheld PC. H, pylori, Helicobacter pylori. Hub, the end of the needle that attaches to the blood collection device, also the threaded end of a tube holder where the needle attaches. Human chorionic gonadotropin, HCG or HCG, hormone that appears in both urine and serum beginning approximately 10 days after conception. HCG is the substance detected in pregnancy tests. Human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, the virus that causes acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, AIDS. Hyperglycemia, a condition in which the level of sugar, glucose in the blood is high, as in diabetes mellitus. Hyperkalemia, a high concentration of potassium in the blood. Hypernatremia, a high level of sodium in the blood. Hypersecretion, secreting too much. Hypodermic needle, the type of needle used with a syringe system. Hypoglycemia, condition in which the level of sugar, glucose in the blood is low. Hypokalemia, a low concentration of potassium in the blood. Hyponatremia, a low level of sodium in the blood. Hyposecretion, secreting too little. Hypothyroidism, a disorder characterized by insufficient levels of thyroid hormones. Hypovolemia, state of decreased blood volume. Hypoxemia, a low level of oxygen in the blood. IACET, International Association for Continuing Education and Training. IATA, International Air Transport Association. Iatrogenic, an adjective used to describe an adverse condition brought on by the effects of treatment. ICA 2+, ionized calcium. ICD-9-CM, International Classification of Diseases, 9 Provision, Clinical Modification. ICD-10-PCS, International Classification of Diseases, 10 Provision. Procedural Coding System, ICOM, image used to request the appropriate programs or functions on a computer. Icteric, a term meaning marked by jaundice, used to describe serum, plasma, or urine specimens that have an abnormal deep yellow to yellow-brown color due to high bilirubin levels. Icterus, also called jaundice, a condition characterized by a high bilirubin, a product of the breakdown of red blood cells in the blood, leading to deposits of yellow bile pigment in the skin, mucous membranes, and sclerae, whites of the eyes, giving the patient a yellow appearance. ID band, bracelet, identification band, bracelet, ID card, clinic-issued patient identification document, ID code, unique identification for users. IDS, Integrated Healthcare Delivery System. IFOBT, Immunochemical Fecal Occult Blood Test, also called Fecal Immunochemical Test, FIT. IHI, Institute for Healthcare Improvement, IHI. Immune, protected from or resistant to a particular disease or infection because of the development of antibody through vaccination or recovery from the disease. Implanted port, a small chamber attached to an indwelling line that is surgically implanted under the skin in the upper chest or arm. Implied consent, the patient's actions or circumstances imply consent without a verbal or written expression of consent. Indirect contact transmission, transmission of an infectious agent that occurs when a susceptible host touches contaminated objects such as patient bed linens, clothing, or wound dressings. Indwelling line, another name for central venous catheter, CVC. Infant respiratory distress syndrome, IRDS, a respiratory condition in a premature infant caused by a deficiency of surfactant, which causes the alveoli to collapse. Infection, invasion of the body by a pathogenic microorganism, resulting in injurious effects or disease. Infectious agent, the pathogen responsible for causing an infection, also called the causative agent. Inferior, beneath, lower, or away from the head, also called caudal. Inflammation, tissue reaction to injury, such as redness or swelling. Informed consent, implies voluntary and competent permission for a medical procedure, test, or medication. Input, to enter data into a computer. INR, International Normalized Ratio. Integrated, connecting a network of computers with the appropriate middleware, software. Integument, covering or skin. Integumentary system, the skin and its appendages, including the hair and nails, also referred to as the largest organ of the body. Interatrial septum, the partition that separates the right and left atria. Interface, connect for the purpose of interaction. Internal respiration, exchange of respiratory gases between the blood and cells in the tissues. Internal deep, within or near the center of the body. International Organization for Standardization, an independent, non-governmental international organization of national standards bodies from all over the world, whose members share knowledge and develop voluntary international standards that cover many industries, including healthcare. Goes by the initials ISO. Interstitial fluid, fluid in the tissue spaces between the cells. Interventricular septum, the partition that separates the right and left ventricles. Intracellular fluid, fluid within the cells. Intravascular, within the blood vessels. Intravenous, IV, pertaining to or within a vein. Intravenous, IV line, a catheter inserted in a vein to administer fluids and simply referred to as an IV. Intrinsic, originating within. Intrinsic pathway, coagulation pathway involving coagulation factors circulating within the bloodstream. Invasion of privacy, violation of one's right to be left alone. In vitro, in a test tube. In vivo, in the living body. Ionized calcium, ICA 2+, form of calcium used by the body for such. Critical functions as muscular contraction, cardiac function, transmission of nerve impulses, and blood clotting. Iontophoresis, electrical stimulation from electrodes placed on the skin, used in the production of sweat in the sweat chloride test. IQCP, Individualized Quality Control Plan. ISO, International Organization for Standardization. Isolation procedures, procedures intended to separate patients with certain transmissible infections from contact with others. IV, intravenous. Jaundice, also called icterus, a condition characterized by increased bilirubin, a product of the breakdown of red blood cells in the blood. leading to the deposition of yellow bile pigment in the skin, mucous membranes, and sclerae, whites of the eyes, giving the patient a yellow appearance. Joint Commission on the Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations, JCAHO, a voluntary, non-governmental agency, presently referred to as the Joint Commission. Charged with, among other things, establishing standards for the operation of healthcare facilities and services. K+, potassium, keratinized, having become hardened. Kernicterus, medical term for brain dysfunction caused by toxic levels of bilirubin. Ketones, substances created when the body breaks down fat for energy because the diet is deficient in carbohydrates or the body does not metabolize glucose properly. A buildup of ketones in the blood can lead to a dangerous condition called diabetic ketoacidosis, DKA. Kidneys, organs that form and excrete urine. Kinesics, the study of nonverbal communication. Kinesic slip, when the verbal and nonverbal messages do not match. Laboratory informatics, the specialized application of information technology, such as the development, maintenance, and use of computers, computer systems, and networks, and store. Retrieve and send information to optimize laboratory operations. Lactate, a form of lactic acid that is used as a marker of the severity of metabolic acidosis and a patient's stress response. Lactose tolerance test, a test used to determine if a patient lacks the mucosal enzyme, lactase, that is necessary to convert lactose or milk sugar into glucose into lactose. LAN, local area network. Lancet, a sterile, disposable, sharp-pointed or bladed instrument that either punctures or makes an incision in the skin to obtain capillary blood specimens for testing. Large intestine, part of the digestive system where undigested food is stored, formed into feces and eliminated. Also where normal intestinal bacteria act on food residue to produce vitamin K and some of the B-complex vitamins. Larynx, the enlarged upper end of the trachea that houses the vocal cords, the ends of which mark the division between the upper and lower respiratory tract. Lateral, toward the side. LDL, low-density lipoprotein, commonly called bad cholesterol because it contributes to atherosclerosis. Lecithin to sphingomyelin, LS ratio, amniotic fluid test to assess fetal lung maturity. Leukocytes, white blood cells, WBCs, nucleus containing blood cells whose main function is to combat infection and remove disintegrated tissue. Leukopenia, an abnormal decrease of WBCs in the circulating blood. Lipase, digestive enzyme secreted by the pancreas. Lipemia, increased lipid content in the blood. Lipemic, describing serum or plasma that appears milky, cloudy white, or turbid due to high lipid content. Lipids, fats and fat-like substances the body uses for energy. LI, Laboratory Information System. Liter, the basic unit of volume in the metric system, which is equivalent to 1,000 milliliters. Liver, accessory organ of the digestive system that stores glycogen, detoxifies harmful substances, secretes bile, and breaks down protein. LM, liters per minute, as in oxygen therapy. Look back, program that requires all components of a unit of blood to be traceable back to the donor and that also requires notification to all blood recipients when a donor for a blood product they have received has turned positive for a transmissible disease. LS ratio, lecithin to sphingomyelin, LS ratio. Luer adapter, in the Luer lobe system, a device for connecting the syringe to the needle. When locked into place, it ensures a secure fit. Lumbar puncture, procedure in which a physician inserts a special needle into the spinal cavity to extract spinal fluid. Also called spinal puncture. Lumen, the inner space of a blood vessel or tube. Lungs, organs that house the bronchial branches in the alveoli, where gas exchange takes place. Lymph, lymphatic system fluid derived from excess tissue fluid, similar in composition to plasma. Also an abbreviation for lymphocyte. Lymph nodes, structures of the lymphatic system that contain special tissue that traps and destroys both bacteria and foreign matter. Lymph nodes also function in the production of lymphocytes. Lymphatic system, a system of vessels, nodes, and ducts that collect and filter excess tissue fluid called lymph and returns it to the venous system. Lymphedema, swelling caused by impaired lymph flow. Lymphocytes, lymphs, normally the second most numerous WBCs and the most numerous of granulocytes. Two main types of lymphocytes are T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. Lymphostasis, obstruction or stoppage of normal lymph flow. Lyse, to kill or destroy, as in ruptured RBCs. Lysis, rupturing, as in the bursting of red blood cells. Malpractice, a type of negligence committed by a professional. Mastectomy, breast excision or removal. Material Safety Data Sheet, MSDS, a written document containing general information as well as precautionary and emergency information for any product with a hazardous warning on the label. MCOs, Managed Care Organizations. Measuring, the quantity or amount of a substance being measured. Medial, toward the midline or middle. Median basilic vein, located in the medial aspect of the antecubital area, it is the last choice for venipuncture in the M-shaped pattern. Median cephalic vein, located in the lateral aspect of the antecubital area, it is the second choice for venipuncture in the M-shaped pattern. It is also called the intermediate cephalic vein. Median cubital vein, the preferred vein for venipuncture in the shaped pattern, located in the middle of the antecubital fossa. Median cutaneous nerve, a major motor and sensory nerve in the arm that lies along the path of the brachial artery and near the basilic vein. Median nerve, major arm nerve in the medial aspect of the arm near the basilic vein. Median vein, located near the center of the antecubital area, it is the first choice for venipuncture in the M-shaped pattern. It is also called the intermediate antebrachial vein. Medicaid, a federal institution, provides medical assistance for low-income Americans. Medical laboratory scientist, a new ASCP designation for a person who generally has a bachelor's BS degree plus additional studies and experience in the clinical laboratory setting. As of October 23, 2009, all CLS, NCA, certificates who had an active credential with NCA were transferred to the ASCP and the NCA merged Board of Certification as MLS, ASCP. Medical terminology, special vocabulary of the health professions. Medicare, federally funded program that provides healthcare to people over the age of 65 and to the disabled. Megakaryocyte, large bone marrow cell from which platelets are derived. Melanin, dark pigment that colors the skin and protects it from the sun. Also found in the hair and eyes. Meninges, 3 layers of connective tissue that enclose the spinal cavity. Menu, a list of options from which the user may choose. Metabolism, the sum of all the physical and chemical reactions necessary to sustain life. Meter, the basic unit of linear measurement in the metric system, equal to 39.37 in. Microbe, short for microorganism, a microscopic organism or one that is not visible to the naked eye.
Leave it, Andre.
Microbicidal, destructive to microbes. Microbiology, laboratory department that analyzes blood and other body fluids and tissues for the presence of microorganisms, primarily by means of culture and sensitivity.
The hell, Obama?
Testing.
Yeah, it's
Microclub, a tiny
I have a
powder
piece?
thrombus that may not be visible to the naked eye.
Oh, last piece. I want that too. Wait, no, you have a piece right here.
No, those are chewed.
This one's not chewed.
They might chew too. I have a big mouth. He bought those for me.
Also called capillary tubes and microtubes and sometimes referred to as bullets because of their size and shape. Microhematocrit tubes, disposable, narrow-bore plastic or plastic-clad glass capillary tubes that fill by capillary action. Microtubes, special small plastic tubes used to collect the tiny amounts of blood obtained from capillary punctures. Also called microcollection containers. Middleware, term for any software that serves to glue together 2 separate, already existing programs. Mid-sagittal plane, divides the body vertically into equal right and left portions. Midstream, term applied to urine collection in which the specimen is collected in the middle of urination rather than at the beginning or end. Military time, also called European time, based on a clock with 24 numbers instead of 12, eliminating the need to designate AM or PM. Mitosis, a type of cell duplication that involves DNA doubling and cell division. MLS, medical laboratory scientist. MLT, medical laboratory technician. Mnemonic, memory aiding code or abbreviation, as used in Lee, or. Example, modem, device that enables a computer to transmit data over telephone or cable lines, for example. Modified Allen test, a simple non-invasive test to assess collateral circulation before collecting a blood specimen from the radial artery. Monocytes, monos, normally the largest WBCs and 1% to 7% of total WBCs, they are mononuclear phagocytic cells and among the first lines of defense in the inflammatory process. Motor or efferent nerves, nerves that carry impulses away from the CNS. Mr. number, medical record number used for patient ID. MRSA, methicillin-resistant staphylococcus, Staph aureus. Multi-sample needles, needles that allow multiple tubes to be collected with a single venipuncture. Murmurs, abnormal heart sounds, often due to faulty valve action. Myocardial infarction, MI, heart attack or necrosis, death of heart muscle from lack of oxygen. Myocardial ischemia, condition resulting from an insufficient supply of blood to meet the oxygen needs of the heart muscle. Myocardium, the middle muscle layer of the heart. Na plus, sodium, NAACLS, National Accrediting Agency for Clinical Laboratory Sciences. NASH, the National Surveillance System for Healthcare Workers. Nasopharyngeal, NP, a term referring to the nasal cavity and pharynx. National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, federal agency that regulates disinfectant products and the disposal of hazardous waste. Among other responsibilities associated with developing and enforcing regulations that implement environmental laws enacted by Congress. National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, the federal agency responsible for conducting research and making recommendations for the prevention of work-related injury and illness. National Patient Safety Goals, part of the Joint Commissions. Overall CQI requirements for accreditation. Needle phobia, intense fear of needles. Needle sheath, needle cap or cover. Needle Stick Safety and Prevention Act, federal law that directed OSHA to revise the BBP standard in 4 key areas, the Exposure Control Plan. Selection of engineering and work practice controls with employee input, modification of engineering control definitions, and new record-keeping requirements. Negligence, failure to exercise due care. Neonates, medical term for newborns. Nephron, the microscopic functional unit of the kidneys. Network, a group of computers that are all linked for the purpose of sharing resources. Neuron, the fundamental working unit of the nervous system. Neutropenic, pertaining to an abnormally small number of neutrophils in the blood.
Neutrophils.
Normally the most numerous WBC in adults.
Hey, it's neutrophil. It's from that one anime.
With granules that are fine in texture and stain lavender, also called polys, PMNs, or SESS. Newborn neonatal screening, the routine testing of newborns for the presence of certain metabolic and genetic, inherited disorders, such as phenylketonuria. NFPA, National Fire Protection Association. NHSN, National Healthcare Safety Network. NIDA, National Institute on Drug Abuse. NIOSH, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. Non-ambulatory, another term for inpatient. Non-invasive, not penetrating the skin. Normal flora, term for non-pathogenic microbes that are normally on our skin and in other areas such as the gastrointestinal, GI, tract. Normals, another name for reference ranges. Nosocomial infection, an infection acquired in a healthcare facility. NP, nasopharyngeal. NPO, nothing by mouth, from Latin, nil per os. NSPGs, National Patient Safety Goals. Nucleus, the command center of a cell that contains the chromosomes that govern all cell activities. Obese, extremely overweight. Occluded, obstructed, as in a vein
That's
that
me.
or clotted. Occlusion, obstruction, occult blood, hidden blood. See guaiac test.
Guaiac
Occupational Safety and
test.
Health Administration, OSHA,
Made
US.
from the
Some of
guaiac
agencies
trees
have mandates and
that
enforce
are
safe
only
working conditions for
local to
employees.
that one remote place in the Amazon.
A test to detect the presence of intestinal parasites in their eggs and feces. Order of draw, a special sequence in tube collection that is intended to minimize additive carryover or cross-contamination problems.
Yes.
OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration.
Yes.
Osteoarthritis, inflammation of the bone and heart.
In my old job, we didn't have OSHA.
Information or data to the user or to someone in another location. Ovum, female gamete or sex cell. Oxalates, anticoagulants that prevent clotting by precipitating calcium. Oxyhemoglobin, oxygen combined with hemoglobin. Pacemaker, in the heart, the structure that generates the electrical impulse that initiates heart contraction. See sinoatrial node, palmar surface, the palm, underside, or grasping side of the hand. Palpate, examine by feel or touch. Pancreas, an accessory organ to the digestive system that secretes hormones and produces digestive enzymes. Panic value, significantly abnormal test result that could indicate a life-threatening situation that requires immediate attention by the physician. Also called critical value. PAP, cervical cancer screening test named after its developer,
Now
Dr.
what?
George Papanicolaou. Papilli, singular, papilla.
Beep boop. Boop boop beep. How long was this one? 45. Damn, that's a lot of words. Cool. It's everything.